Welcome everyone. Nama Om Vishnu Vadhaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasisha Sunyavari Pashtatara Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. I have to do better. Sometimes when I watch the recording, then I'm saying the prayers, but I'm looking at the computer and pressing buttons. I'm distracted. Great, let's try and be not distracted. Um, okay, let me share then where we left off last week. It wasn't there. It's somewhere here. Let me just make this a bit smaller. Anyone could perhaps remember something that we discussed last week, the basic topic? Hope you don't mind, I'll put you on the spot. Have to go back, think back, previous life. Go back to your earliest memory. Take a deep breath and step back. Previous life, last week. All right, I'll bring up the slides. I'll bring up the first one do you remember this? We're speaking about samadhi, yeah, of great devotees, of accomplished great devotees. So we gave different examples. Okay, so one of them was Markandeya Rishi. Yeah, wonderful example. He's described in the 12th canto. And this samadhi happens to be, it parallels, as we mentioned, Ashtanga Yoga. It parallels the achievement in Ashtanga as well. So, but the devotees, it's a devotional samadhi, obviously, yeah, where Krishna is the object of that meditation. Okay, and compared to the Ashtanga yogis, the samadhi of devotees is achieved much easier than a so-called yogic platform of samadhi. Yeah, we discussed that a little bit. And we also, another example of samadhi was Kadama Muni. Remember that pastime? Anyone can say a little something you remember from this? Kadama Muni. He was not a, anyone can finish the two next words. He was not a dot, 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 dot.
Bhakti yogi. He was a karma, Mishra karma yogi, something like that.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he wasn't a pure devotee. His bhakti was mixed. But the Lord, out of his compassion, appeared before Kadama Muni because of his deep absorption in meditation. Although he was meditating and he had a material desire to obtain a good wife. Yeah. But because nonetheless, yeah, let me just read here. Yeah. Um, yeah, so he appeared before Kadama Muni because although his meditation was mixed, what it was mixed with was a very powerful was bhakti. So that part touched the Lord's heart. So the Lord appeared before him. I'm just trying to find the exact words that are used. Yeah, the answer is that while Kadama's yogic powers elevated him to samadhi, the mercy was possible by the power of his attachment in devotion. All right, so we spoke about that, Kadama Muni. Yeah. And then we spoke about the samadhi of Lord Brahma. how everything was revealed, the spiritual realm was revealed to Lord Brahma because of his meditation at the level of samadhi, and he saw everything was revealed to him. Although with Kardama Muni, then as just in this picture here, the Lord actually appeared to him. So he, through his physical eyes, he could see the Lord actually came on Garuda. You see this picture here. Now, the trance of Brahma was a bit different in that it was all revealed within his meditative mind. Yeah? Within his mind, he saw as if he was seeing with eyes and senses. He saw the whole spiritual realm. And then Krishna came and shook his hand. We mentioned that, yeah? That was the details of his samadhi. And then we mentioned Bilva Mangala Thakur. Devotees often like to speak about him, Bilva Mangala Thakur. I'll just read this here. When will the sweet flute sound of that youth who earlier appeared before me and who is said to be a great ocean of mercy appear again, displaying the full beauty of his joyful moon-like face, and thus destroy the agony of my mind and the misery of my lonely trance. All right, so he's absorbed in a trance of meditation on Krishna, but he's begging the Lord to hear the melodious sound of his flute, yeah, to interrupt his otherwise trance of samadhi upon Krishna. So quite unique. Right, some more devotees coming in. And then we spoke about Prahlad Maharaj. We mentioned, yeah, at this stage of absorption in Krishna, it's like self-propelling, and almost effortlessly one finds oneself attracted to Krishna. Yeah, just like a iron filing is attracted to a magnet. So remember we quoted this last week. He's saying, "Oh Brahmanas," because his teachers are questioning how and why he's so attached to Krishna, to a Vishnu. And Prahlad Maharaj says, "Well, I can't do anything about it." He's so absorbed. So as iron is attached by a magnet, stone moves automatically towards a magnet. My consciousness, having been changed by his will, is attracted by Lord Vishnu, who carries a disc in his hand. Thus I have no independence. So it's as if, of course he does, but it is as if one has no independence. One is completely attracted like a magnet. Yeah, so it's a nice description. So Prahlad is explaining like that. That he has no control over his devotion to Krishna. It was controlling him. Yeah. So therefore, even he was preaching in class, he was converting, he was spontaneously glorifying the Lord in a class. Okay, as we know, a wonderful story. And then we spoke about Narada Muni, little Narad, and his trance of samadhi. He learned from the Bhaktivedantas, and we know the story as it unfolds. Then he at some point sat down and tried the same meditation, probably as we said, did pranayam and then went into deep meditation. And the Lord appeared, manifest in a wonderful way. Yeah, appeared within his mind was flooded with love, and the Lord appeared with his senses. Yeah, he experienced the fragrance of the Lord's body, then he heard the Lord's ankle bells, and he saw his beautiful features. At that point, he fainted away. And then he tried to recall that same meditation, but as we know, a voice came from the sky, because you're not at this stage of total perfection, you'll not see me again in this life. Yeah, so he still had a little tinge, he still had a little ways to go. But then the next life, he became Narada Muni. Okay, everyone's with us so far? And then the trance of Srila Vyasadeva was asked to go in the trance of bhakti. This is prema. Yeah, Vyasadeva, an example of going into samadhi, and in that samadhi of meditation, instructed by Narada Muni. This is Narad here. Vyasadeva. Yeah. He sees Krishna and everything. He sees everything. He sees Krishna and he sees the material energy. He sees the jiva. Yeah. And based on that revelation in samadhi, then he gathers together and compiles the Srimad Bhagavatam. All right. And that's where we left off last week. Okay. Any questions or comments or anything we missed that we covered last week you want to remind us about? Please feel free to share.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Anyway,
Yes.
today is the first day I joined. I
Okay,
really
Mama.
do. Yeah.
Welcome back. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. I was just thinking, how about because since you were explaining about everybody, even with the material desire, you approach the Lord out of mercy. He came. So, can we think about Dhruva Maharaj also, Prabhu?
Well, that was this example of Kardama Muni. It is extraordinary.
Okay.
And that's why it's in the Bhagavatam. It's an extraordinary example. Generally, well, the Lord can appear before anyone at any time, but generally he's going to appear before his pure devotee. Generally, his pure devotees will not force exactly, but because the strength of their love, Krishna cannot resist appearing before them. But for Kardama Muni, it's a little bit different. It's quite an interesting example. He was meditating with a material desire, but the Lord is very compassionate. So because of the bhakti aspect of his mixed devotion, the Lord appeared before him. They mentioned Dhruva Maharaj. Yes, so that's another example of someone who's meditating upon the Lord with an ulterior motive. Yeah, that's actually, it's a good point. You're making, yeah, we could include Dhruva Maharaj here as well, because he also was meditating upon the Lord to fulfill a material desire. And the Lord, out of his causeless mercy, appeared before Dhruva. Does anyone know why he appeared before Dhruva, even though he was meditating upon him? He was meditating upon the Lord to fulfill a material desire.
Because he is very determined.
Yeah, he's very determined, but he was determined, but he was determinedly serving, following the instructions of Narada Muni.
Yeah.
Of his spiritual master. Yeah. So that in of itself, the power of following instructions of his spiritual master, then the Lord appeared before him. Yeah, but it's good. We could have put a picture of Dhruva Maharaj here. Yeah. That's why I said, Akamo Shava Moksha, Akamo Moksha Kam. What's that verse? Akamo Shava. Anyone know the verse? Finish it for me. Akamo Shava, Kamo Va, Moksha Kamo O Udaradi, Tivrena Bhakti Yogina, Yuditi Purusham Param. That's why it's described. Whether you have all material desires, you have no material desires, whatever you do, go to Krishna. Go to Krishna. Krishna's going to take care. Yeah. All right. Is that okay, Mother? Yeah. Okay. So then we left off here last week. So we're going to finish.
Thank you, Papa. Sorry.
Yeah. So obviously, we've been speaking about the samadhi of different devotees. And one thing I think we described that perhaps, yeah, because we're going to finish this number 6, just 2 slides, then we go on to presentation number 7. But here we're hearing about the samadhi. Now we're going to hear about the samadhi of the topmost devotees. Yeah, obviously that includes the residents of Vrindavan, but specifically the Gopis. Yeah. Now but it should be understood that this elevation to samadhi, this comes just before bhava. So for those on the path of smaran, the different developments of absorption in Krishna, this is the final one that comes before bhava. Yeah. So this is, and for a devotee going through the different stages of absorption in Krishna, through the medium of the holy name, through practice and determination, they can come to the level of being absorbed in a samadhi state. And in that state, they will obtain bhava. Yeah. So they're still conditioned souls until they obtain bhava. All right. We're not confusing everyone here. Okay. But this samadhi here is the samadhi of the perfected devotees. All right. So this verse here is instructions to Uddhava. So the Lord's in, so he's remembering the Gopis. And someone would like to read this verse? He's praising their absorption in him.
I'll read.
Go ahead, Mo. Yeah.
My dear Uddhava, just as great sages in yoga trance merges into self-realization, like rivers merging into the ocean, and are thus not aware of material names or forms, similarly, the gopis of Vrindavan were so completely attached to me within their minds that they could not think of their own bodies, or of this world, or of their future lives. Their entire consciousness was simply bound up in me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how it might manifest, just coming down quite a bit, how it might manifest in a sadhaka is that when one is so absorbed in chanting the holy name that they literally forget where they are. They forget completely the external situation. Yeah. And only when they open their eyes do they remember where they are. Yeah. They're just so absorbed in Krishna. Well, but here's the topmost example. Excuse me. Here's the topmost example. Yeah. So the gopis, they're in this trance. To remember that all the other examples we have mentioned, that they specifically go into and practice a meditative trance. And in that trance, then they perceive Krishna. So it's something which they physically, mentally do. And then, like Vyasadeva, he saw Krishna. Yeah. Then he saw everything, the material energy. But then he would come out of that trance and organize and then write the Srimad Bhagavatam based on what he experienced. The same as Lord Brahma. He would see that and then it would become unmanifest. The same as Kardama Muni. Krishna would appear and he would be, and then again he would become unmanifest. Same as, same all the examples we gave. When Markandeya Rishi here, when Lord Shiva appeared in his heart, then he came out of his samadhi. Yeah, so it's entering into and then coming out. But the gopis never come out. They're always, they're always fully absorbed in a samadhi, the topmost, of absorption in Krishna. So this is why this is what he's saying to Uddhava. He's praising them. Yeah. They're so attached to him within their minds, so that's smaran, that they don't think of their own bodies or this world or their future lives. So this is experience, both this state of absorption in Krishna is experiencing Krishna's presence and in his absence. Yeah. So in one sense, there is no difference of their absorption in Krishna. Yeah. So whether they were separated from Krishna or they meditated upon him, whether they were actually dancing with Krishna or they were not, they was just as absorbed in Krishna. There was no difference. You can understand the difference between this and the other examples that we gave. Yeah. So in this sense, their samadhi surpasses any yogi. Even the examples that we gave, it surpasses Lord Brahma, it surpasses Vyasadeva. Yeah. It surpasses, obviously Kardama Muni, obviously. Yeah. So in other words, even when Krishna was in Dwarka, when he was far away in Dwarka, they were just as absorbed in Krishna as they were when Krishna was in Vraj. The same absorption. Yeah. The same. It didn't change. Yeah. So whether they see no difference even when they're dancing, keeping silent, or singing. If they're alone or they're with millions of other gopis, they're all in there. They remain in that trance, and this is called Adiruda Mahabhav. I looked up that word earlier. Adiruda. I mean, let me just find it here. Adiruda Mahabhav. Nice word, huh? Or name. Your name is Adiruda Mahabhav. So let me just look here for I found it. Yeah. Yeah, so above, so Adiruda means firmly mounted, it means completely ascended, fully established. Adi, above, even. So Ruda means, yeah, so to rise. Adiruda Mahabhav. This is the gopis, They're always in the same trance, yeah? Like this picture here. This is the gopis, as you know, when they were separated from Krishna. Then they're so deeply in meditation on Krishna's pastimes that they experience a type of ekadvam, a type of oneness with Krishna, right? But not the impersonal concept of oneness. So you see this gopi, you see the gopis here. This is a nice picture in it, a nice picture. They have no concept of their own selves at this point. They're so absorbed in Krishna. They're so absorbed in acting out his pastimes that they're not aware that they are separate personalities enacting out the pastimes. For them, they're fully absorbed in Krishna, his lila, his form, his qualities. That's why it says here they cannot think of their own bodies. Yeah. So this is Kalia. You see this gopi? She's climbing another gopi. This is the Kalia pastime. This is could be the what's the Chatukasura pastime, the cart. And what could this pastime be? We're looking in the mouth. Is it Mavi Soda looking in the mouth? I don't know. They're just enacting Krishna's pastime, but they're not. Okay, let's act out Krishna's pastime. Let's do Kalia. I'm gonna climb in it. No, they have no. It's difficult to describe. I mean, how can we possibly describe it? We're trying to. Yeah. So, in other words, in that sense, there's no separation from Krishna. It is continuous. Yeah. They're so their attention that they forgot who they were, as mentioned in the verse, and also where they come from. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes even they're so captivated, they're so deeply absorbed in this meditation that even when Krishna is present, they think they must be dreaming. And when they're dreaming, they think that they've met Krishna. They're with Krishna. They lose sense of dreaming and Krishna's appearance in a dream or Krishna's appearance physically. For them, it kind of merges into it merges into an inconceivable depth of meditation upon Krishna. Yeah. Yeah. So they cannot tell whether they're in his manifest or unmanifested pastimes, whether they're dreaming or awake, whether their experience was factual or meditation, whether Krishna appeared to them in person or is in meditation. For them, they could not tell. And here, and this was the same experience of Lord Jagannath, of Lord Chaitanya at Rath Yatra. Yeah, he's in this same samadhi, Adiruddha Mahabhav. Yeah, where And sometimes it's, I'm still trying to understand it myself, but my Guru Maharaj said something this time in Mayapur, which kind of made me think and made me realize that actually here, Lord Chaitanya, some say he's not Radharani. He's in the mood of Radharani. And because he's delving deeply into the mood of Radharani, it's as if he is Radharani, but he's just swimming in her mood. Yeah. It's Krishna deeply relishing the mood of Radha. Yeah. Tat bhava. Yeah. So anyway, and there's
Can
Thierry.
sorry,
Please,
can
yeah.
I just, I was just thinking how I'm realizing it, like, how in materially speaking, how I say I am Chandravali, I've got two sons, I've got this, I've got that. So conscious of that situation. Whereas this is completely the opposite. They're so conscious of being of Krishna and just pleasing Krishna. So they don't think anything else. We think everything else but Krishna,
Yeah, that's
like
it.
that.
We're the opposite. We're in a world of duality. And sometimes we think of Krishna if we're doing well. Sometimes we happen to meditate upon Krishna, even when we're charging japa, sometimes during our japa, we may think of Krishna. Well, not the gopis. Can you imagine the gopis being inattentive during japa? They're just so absorbed that they won't even know they're chanting japa. Because the gopis don't chant 16 rounds. But the principle is they're always absorbed in glorifying Krishna. So it's quite a contrast to us, us little sadhakas trying our best to remember Krishna, Okay, so it's inspiring to hear about this wonderful level of Krishna consciousness, So as you know, Lord Chaitanya, he takes the role of Radharani, and he enters into this Adiruddha Mahabhav just like the gopis. And he fully identifies himself as being Radharani. Yeah. And Jagannath is Krishna. So he converses with Jagannath, as in a mood to bring him back to Vrindavan. Yeah. Yeah, and so here in this, so Krishna admits that this samadhi of Radha and the gopis is so powerful, as we know the story. It forcibly brings Krishna from Dwarka to Vrindavan. Yeah. So even though in this pastime Krishna does return to Vrindavan, so he makes so it facilitates real life exchanges. Despite that, the gopis think their pastimes with Krishna is just a dream. Yeah. So in other words, their absorption in Krishna is second to none. Yeah. So although we use the word samadhi, the gopi samadhi is compared to that of great sages, but actually it cannot be actually compared. There is no comparison. But we give just like examples given Shakya, what's it? Shakya Chandranaya, where to point out the moon in the vast sky, you may point to a tree in which behind you can then see the moon. You understand? So you look at the tree and through the branches, then you can see the moon. It's something they use in Veda. Yeah. Shaka Chandranaya. So we speak about the word samadhi and the yogi samadhi. Then we speak about the gopi samadhi. But actually, it cannot be, there is no comparison. Yeah. There is no comparison. Okay. Any questions, comments, or any wows? Wow, that's amazing. We got a long way to go. Okay. All right. So go on.
Love to get to that stage.
Yeah, now that's the next part. How to get to that stage. Okay. Now, one second to bring that up. Yeah, so this is what this is all about. Let me make this smaller. Okay, this is part 7, and this is really the last part, of our presentation. And there's one more part, but that's just a glorification. There's nice prayers, and that's very short. But here, what's gonna be described is the attributes of a devotee advancing to the stage of samadhi. Yeah. So, in other words, so this will give an indication of what attracts Krishna's attention to obtain his grace. Yeah. So, and this is a question that's asked also in chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita. Some of you might know the verse. Stita Bhagnasya Basha Samadhi Stasya Keshavaha. So Samadhi Stasya Keshavaha. Stita De Kim Papasheta Kim Aseta Vajeta Kim. I should have put the verse up, but it's here. So Arjuna is asking the question, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is in samadhi? How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? So in other words, how does he go about life? How does he exist? It's not, does he sit down on the couch or the floor? How does he sit? But how does he exist in life? What are the symptoms? Yeah, what are those symptoms? And that's in it's summarized in text 55 to 59. So if someone would like to read this, this is Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text 55 to 59. Any readers out there?
Can I?
Yes, permission granted.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. One who attained samadhi has given up all desire for sense gratification. His purified mind finds satisfaction in the self and is neither disturbed when subjected to the threefold miseries, nor elated when showered with happiness, unaffected by whatever good or evil may come his way. He neither
Despises. Yeah.
nor praises it, but remains steady, free from attachment, fear, and anger. When in trance, the devotee withdraws all his senses from sense objects in the way that the tortoise draws its limbs within a shell. And although he has abundant sense enjoyment, even slight taste for sense objects remains in him. He remains fixed in consciousness by experiencing a higher taste from within.
Right. So these are the attributes. These are some details of what it's like, some symptoms of such a stage. Yeah, as Arjuna asked here again. Samadhi stasya keshavaha. So he's asking, yeah. Kim aseta vajeta kim. You can please tell me, Kim. Please tell me what is the symptoms of one in samadhi. So then Krishna explains. Yeah. So we're gonna break this down, and basically we're gonna look at some of these and also some that are not mentioned. We're gonna elaborate on them, what's mentioned here. So here's some of the attributes of this stage of samadhi. So we're gonna look at these. Its liberated status, the realizations that come with it, how the details of freedom from the bodily identification, freedom from karma, fearlessness, exclusive interest in Krishna's pastimes, and the qualification to see Krishna. Spiritual perfection from which fall down is very rare. All right. You all ready for this? Yes. Hare Krishna. Okay. So someone, yeah, let's Someone like to read this here? This is fourth canto.
I'll do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
All the sages and demigods headed by Indra offered their respectful obeisances unto Lord Shiva with folded hands. Lord Shiva was dressed in saffron garments and absorbed in trance, thus appearing to be the foremost of all sages.
Yeah, so this is when they approached, I think the pastime is the Daksha Yagna, and a big mess was made of the Daksha Yagna, and they realized their mistake. So they humbly go to Lord Shiva. When they get to Kailash, he's in total trance, samadhi. Now we're showing how a devotee in trance, he may not be fully liberated, okay? We made that point earlier. Amazingly or not. So this is a certain level of attainment which comes just before being liberated. So what we can ascertain from that is to be liberated and obtain a ray of prema bhava, we have to be very, very absorbed in our bhajan. Yeah? Very absorbed. So that's why it's good we're going through these different stages of smaran. You know, when you yama, niyama, what was it? Yama, niyama, pranayam, asan, dhyana, dharana, anushmriti, samadhi. Yeah. So this also means, it doesn't just mean in one sense, it means obviously in our practice of japa meditation, but just in general as well, being absorbed in Krishna. Yeah, being totally absorbed in Krishna. For example, like we see our respective spiritual masters. Yeah. I can, back to True Swami, looking at Bhakti Vikash Maharaj, Jayapataka Maharaj, Shivaram Swami Maharaj, who other spiritual masters are here? What other devotees are here? Call out the name of your spiritual master. Prahladananda Swami, Gayatri. Did I miss anyone? Jambavati, Niranjana Swami,
Giriraj Swami.
Giriraj Swami. Yeah. Now, what do they all have in common?
Love of
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada and Krishna.
They're fully absorbed.
Yeah.
Not
Fully
affected.
absorbed. Yeah, they're fully absorbed in Krishna. Completely absorbed. Yeah. So their whole day is, you could say their whole day more or less, it's a samadhi. Yeah. Let alone when they sit down and they engage in japa smaran. Yeah. So that's fully, so it means our whole life should be at some point not distracted. Of course, it's a high plane, not distracted by the material energy. Yeah. So that's when one gets, of course, one's getting the mercy of Krishna all along the path of Krishna consciousness, but that's when one is going to become spiritualized by a ray of bhava, or by a ray of prema, and obtain bhava, So anyway, back to the point here. So although a devotee in trance is not fully liberated, he has the symptoms of one who is liberated. Yeah, who's absorbed in Brahmananda. Yeah. He has all the symptoms. Yeah. So, yeah. And here, Prajapati Daksha was beheaded, and they ask Lord Brahma, and he asked them to go to Lord Shiva. Yeah. So now we know that Lord Shiva is not absorbed in Brahmananda. Okay. He's absorbed. Who's his worshipful deity? Anyone know his worshipful deity?
Ram?
Lord Shankarshan, according to Srimad Bhagavatam. Shankarshan. Yeah. So, and Prabhupada mentions in the purple there, I just read it. Samadhi means particular concentrated attention. So one who has achieved the qualification of always meditating upon the personality of Godhead is to be understood to be always in trance and enjoying as if on Brahma Nirvana. Yeah, Lord Shiva exhibited those symptoms, and therefore it was stated that he was absorbed in Brahmananda, but actually it's just symptomatic because his object of absorption is the Lord himself. So he will manifest the symptoms of one who is absorbed in so-called Brahman realization. Yeah. So then the question, how does the samadhi of a sadhaka, how does it equal the bliss of a liberated Jnani or yogi? Yeah, this I have to Vlad Miraj. So someone could read this verse here, from the 7th canto. So a bit of reading to do today.
If no one there, can I read it, Prabhu?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Eager. Very good.
The real problem of life is the repetition of birth and death, which is like a wheel rolling repeatedly up and down. This wheel, however, completely stops when one is in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, by the transcendental bliss realized from constant engagement in devotional service, one is completely liberated from material existence. All learned men know this. Therefore, my dear friends, O sons of the asuras, immediately begin meditating upon and worshipping the super soul within everyone's heart.
Yeah, so more or less what's being explained here, Prahlad's telling his friends that everyone knows well that complete meditation on Krishna, complete meditation on Krishna, that gives the highest pleasure that surpasses so-called the pleasure of liberation. Yeah. And this we're teaching Nectar of Devotion at the moment, and we just spoke about that on Sunday. So this is one of the symptoms of bhava, actually. Moksha lokhuta krit. So lokhuta means it powers into insignificance. And Rupa Goswami writes many verses to substantiate this point. So the happiness in Krishna consciousness, it makes the happiness of so-called impersonal liberation to be very trivial and insignificant. Laghuta, yeah, krit means makes it seem. Moksha lokhuta krit, yeah. And also there's another verse as well. I'll ask you if devotees know this verse. I'll give the first line. Krishna further confirms this. He confirms that pure devotion is superior to liberation. Yeah. And that he confirms it in Bhagavad Gita. So I'm going to quote the first line. See if someone can get the other 3 lines. Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma.
Na sochiti na kakshiti.
Yeah. Next line.
Sarva. Gosh, it's gone. I can't think now.
Go on. We got the second line. Someone could give the third line.
Sarva. Na sochiti na kakshiti. Sarva Bhuta. No.
It's there, nearly there.
Yes, nearly.
Sama
I just can't.
Saveshu Bhuteshu.
It's true.
Sama Saveshu Bhuteshu. Mat Bhaktim unattained. And my devotee, Mat Bhaktim Labate Haram attains complete liberation. Yeah, Brahma Bhuta. One is absorbed in Brahma Bhuta, Prashanna Atma. So Prashanna Atma. Yeah, one who is transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes Prashanna Atma, fully joyful. The Sochite, so Sochite means lamentation.
Doesn't think.
Lamentation. Is that right? Shrotate na kanchate. And there's no, he never laments nor desires to have anything. Yeah, never laments. He doesn't lament for all the things that have gone wrong in life. Doesn't desire for anything they don't have. They're completely in a different realm of experience. They have no attachment to the material world. So, and naturally from that, because they're free of the dualities of the world, then they're samasaveshu bhuteshu. They're equally disposed to everyone. There's no enemies. They're just equally disposed to everyone. Yeah. In that state, one attains pure devotional service. So you understand? Like what we just described is the symptoms of a level of samadhi. And he says, in that state, one attains pure devotional service. Yeah? In that state. Yeah? So this is why we're looking at these different attributes. Yeah? These different symptoms. Follow? Yeah. And this is also said in this verse here. Anyone can think of another verse where, well, it's easier for me because I got the verse here on my notes, but there's another verse that describes simply by absorbing in Krishna consciousness, one automatically obtains knowledge. We're 3, 5, 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Payotataha. We're on this chapter at the moment in our morning Srimad Bhagavatam class, second chapter, first canto. Janatya Suvairakyam Gyana Chatyata Hoitukam. So so here, this is the next feature. We just described the first feature, which is its liberated status. All right, we just described that. The liberated status of this stage of devotional samadhi. Now we're discussing this, the realizations that accompany it. So basically described here, an advanced sadhaka, practitioner, is endowed with realization of all devotional truths. Yet one automatically acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Yeah. So that's why we have examples of devotees who may not be great scholars, great knowers of the scripture, or let me put it another way, they may not be, just that, they may not be great scholars, but they are endowed with realization of all devotional truths, because it's revealed to them from within the heart. So in that sense, they are knowers of scripture. Yeah. Just in one sense, scripture is revealed to them. All the imports of Vedic knowledge is automatically revealed to one who serves the Guru. Yeah. Yeah, so as the devotee is absorbed in their what we call Nam Bhajan, so they're absorbed in thinking of Krishna's form and pastimes. So naturally they have realization of all the truths, all confidential truths regarding Krishna. Yeah. That's why when you hear Prabhupada or very advanced devotees speak, they're not speaking theoretically. I know Gaur Govinda Maharaj would say like that. He would say, devotees don't speak theoretically. So advanced devotees do not speak theoretically. They're speaking based on the revelation that's been revealed to them by dint of their absorption in Krishna. Yeah. So Prabhupada says here, one sentence, one in full samadhi has realized Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. That's from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 53 in the purple. Yeah. So, in other words, Krishna gives his devotee full realization of three features: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Yeah. Now, this happens because he's in contact. He's so absorbed in Krishna, he's in contact with the knowledge potency. Anyone know what the knowledge potency is? We have the Haladini potency, the existence potency, Sandini, Anyone know what the knowledge potency is called?
The samvit.
Yes, well done, my brother, for sure. Yeah, 10 points. Yeah, some of it. So you can understand how it's happening. A devotee is absorbed in Krishna. They're in touch with Krishna. So they're in touch with the knowledge potency. So they're empowered with knowledge. Yeah, they're empowered with realized knowledge. Yeah? So again, this is here. The realizations that accompany it at this stage. Oh, okay. So they're empowered with knowledge. Yeah. Yeah, and it's wonderful to hear such devotees speak. It's wonderful to hear advanced devotees speak. Like on Sunday we had Vaisheshika come. There you go, wonderful. He's so attractive. Everything about him is attractive. I always think of him as a perfect human being. But he speaks the way he speaks such, and he's speaking from realization. So, and it's not, I mean, he's a scholar in one sense. He knows many, many verses, but he doesn't speak them just, he speaks them from a point of realization as well. Because it's being revealed, I would say it's being, he is definitely in touch with the Lord's samvit potency. Am I making sense here? Yeah. Okay. Let's go here. So the next characteristic is, let's go to the next characteristic, just have a look. It's this one here. So we spoke about the realization that accompanies it, yeah? Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, that happens to accompany Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Payojataha. Tana Asukaivakamyam Ganachat Ahoitukam. So now we're going to look at this freedom from the bodily conception. Okay, we'll get to the verse in a minute. Okay, but so next characteristic is how it frees one from every aspect of bodily identification. Yeah. So this is a separate category. It's part of the Brahma Bhuta stage, but it's a separate category. So we're going to give it some special emphasis. Yeah. Because it does play a significant role. Yeah. Attachment and detachment from the body. It plays a big role in our spiritual development. Yeah. So when we say freedom from demands of the body, okay, it doesn't mean that the body doesn't cease to exist. Yeah, the body's still there. But not being the body concept of life, it means that although, so in other words, although Krishna takes charge of his devotee, he is not, he's not, he doesn't free a surrendered soul from all traces of karma. It's called prapta karma. Otherwise, you won't. If it means you've got no body, then you can't complete your devotional service. So the gross and subtle body must continue. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can
Yeah,
I ask
please.
something, Prabhu?
Yes.
This third, when you don't have the bodily conception, so that means our tolerance level goes up, because it is like, I'm thinking, I remember even Kadamba Kanama, I am not, it's not they are not in pain, but they are not suffering. So basically,
It's not like it goes up.
our tolerance goes up. That's why we can tolerate.
It doesn't go up. It's just not there.
Okay.
They do not have any. They do not themselves identify with their body.
So they are up above the body.
Yeah. So if someone comes up to them and says, "You useless, stupid," give loads of abuse.
Yeah.
Like the example of that is in Jad
Bharat.
Yeah, the birth.
which is Maharaj Rahugana. Maharaj Rahugana gives him lots of verbal abuse. But because he doesn't identify with what Maharaj Rahugana is abusing, his body, he's just not affected. Yeah. So, yeah, so here, so I realized, someone who's realized they're not a slave to the body and its demands. Okay, that's also what it means as well. So, but although the devotees, they may engage their bodies in the service of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, they're free from the illusion by remembering that everything in this world, or everything here, is not the ultimate reality, but it's just temporary. Yeah. So in other words, despite their being hands-on in the material world, they have realized detachment. So he may appear detached, but they're not. Yeah. It's like Brihad Bhagavat Maharaj, he mentioned this mysterious thing, this mysterious comment he made, that a devotee who realizes is not the body doesn't even know it. It's very intriguing. So they don't even know it. It's not as if they just act completely fearless, completely free of anxiety, completely free of duality. But it's not as if they oh, now I'm free of the body concept of life. Does that make sense? Probably not. It's a deep. There's, yeah. Okay, so before I read this verse, okay, let's just read the verse. Let's read this. We'll go over a couple of minutes. Someone like to read this verse?
I can read it.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Just as a drunken man does not notice if he is wearing his coat or shirt, similarly, one who is perfect in self-realization and has thus achieved his eternal identity does not notice whether the temporary body is sitting or standing. Indeed, if by God's will the body is finished, or if by God's will he obtains a new body, a self-realized soul does not notice, just as a drunken man does not notice the situation of his outward dress.
All right. Now, this is speaking really about an avadhuta. Yeah. So, for instance, an example of this is Lord Rishabdev. If you read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he was so absorbed, was so detached from the material world that he was as if he was a madman, you know. And there was a forest fire, and he just sat there completely oblivious, didn't run, just sat there and happily got his body burnt up. He wasn't identifying with his body. Now, although here the Hamsa Avatar kind of reveals how far removed the devotee is from the bodily concept of life. Now, the Avadhuta is kind of pictured here in this verse, may exhibit it, may externally exhibit it, but devotees will generally internalize it. Yeah? Like if you read this verse, Prabhupada wasn't conducting himself as in this verse. Yeah? Like an avadhuta. But he would be on this level of realization and freedom from the bodily concept of life, but he would internalize it. So an example of this is like Prahlad Maharaj. So he's a devotee, as we already mentioned, deeply absorbed in samadhi. So he's completely oblivious, even described, to the needs of his body. He was so engrossed in Krishna that just out of habit, he would carry his daily activities. So he was so absorbed, he was unaware of his actions. It was all done by Krishna. Now then, after Lord Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu, he was then enthroned as emperor. So how is someone going to function? You hear how absorbed Prahlad Maharaj was in his meditation. Now he's emperor of the whole planet, I think, of the three worlds. But he went about his duty as a king, yeah, playing with attention to the welfare of everyone. But he was still in the same trance. Yeah. So once he had the demands of a king, he internalized the same detachment he had before when he was young Prahlad. So he internalized that detachment that he once manifest externally. So he then he internalized it. Then he's dealing with state affairs, dealing with bank, dealing with meeting guests, etc. Yeah, but yeah, I just read here this last part here. So this illustrates how extreme indifference to demands of the body are manifest and unmanifest by realized souls. So sometimes it will be externally manifest, and you see that. Who's another example? Who's a contemporary example of someone known as the Avadut, who completely didn't care about the world?
Lord Nityananda. Everybody
Nityananda,
say
yeah.
Nityananda.
Yeah, he's supreme. So he would generally, so he would externally exhibit these symptoms of completely being detached from the body, and he would go around with copings on his head, completely unaware, wrestle with crocodiles, as we know. Also, Vamsidas Babaji, another one, completely unaware, completely absorbed. But Prabhupada, how advanced was Prabhupada? But Prabhupada, he would have internalized it, but so powerful. So when Prabhupada says we are not this body, it has a lot of potency and effect because he knows he's not the body. So when he says it, it's very powerful. And devotees would say, when he would say it, you would automatically realize to some degree for some time that you're not the body. So devotees will externally manifest it, but generally in the preaching mission of Lord Chaitanya, they will internalize it. So I'll just read this last part here. The body of such liberated yogi, along with the senses, is taken charge by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it functions until its destined activities are finished. The liberated devotee, being awake to his constitutional position and thus situated in samadhi, the highest perfection of yoga, okay, the highest perfection of yoga does not accept the byproducts of the material body as his own. Thus, he considers his bodily activities to be like activities of a body in a dream. Okay, so that's freedom. Well, we're going to discuss a bit more. We haven't quite finished, but for today, we just discussed this and we'll discuss more. Okay, so it's a bit technical at the moment, but I hope it's of some interest. This give us some inspiration to be absorbed in Krishna, in our Krishna consciousness. So thank you again, devotees, for joining us. We had 11 devotees with us this evening. That's very good. Thank you for being with us. Hare Krishna.
I know it was good.
Yeah.
Good.
So,
Yeah, good. Everybody came.
Back
Really
to
good.
normal.